Back in the mid-1800s, humanity encountered one of the most infamous and deadly food catastrophes of all time, the Great Potato Famine. At a time when potatoes provided many communities with most or all of their daily nutrients, a devastating disease tore across farmlands, destroying crops and leaving millions to starve. Maybe you learned about all of this in history class, but unfortunately, potato problems aren't just a thing of the past. With pesticide resistance and global temperatures on the rise, potatoes may be in trouble again. So, here's what scientists and farmers are doing right now to prevent the next Great Potato Famine. Potatoes were first domesticated more than 7,000 years ago by people living near the Andes Mountains in South America. Because the Andes have cold peaks and warm valleys, a lot of different kinds of potatoes could grow in their native Peru. And I mean a lot. There's an international potato center in Peru that holds almost 5,000 varieties. So potatoes are a super diverse crop, but only in the Andes. When potatoes were picked up by European colonizers and spread around the world, they clearly didn't replicate the huge diversity that existed in South America. It became common practice to fill farmlands with lots of nearly identical potato plants. In fact, there are only around 7 species of cultivated potatoes, and only one of them is distributed around the world. Nevertheless, potatoes persisted. They ended up thriving in Ireland, where they formed an essential part of daily diets, especially among people who were kept from cultivating their own food on large farms. See, potato plants are pretty easy to grow, even on small, less fertile plots of land. On top of that, potatoes are super nutritious. They have all sorts of vitamins, minerals, and fiber, and are generally considered a nearly perfect food for us humans. Plus, there's so much you can do with them. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. So many Irish people pretty much lived off potatoes in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Unfortunately, as potatoes were shipped all over the world, they brought along little hitchhikers. The 1800s saw the rise of a fungus-like pathogen known as potato blight. The signs of a blighted potato tend to start off small, with little green lesions on the plant's leaves. In the right conditions, these can give rise to white mildew and rotting blotches that can destroy the leaves and infect the underground tubers, aka the potato itself. If it isn't treated properly, potato blight can wipe out an entire field of potatoes in a matter of days. Back in the potato's homeland in South America, farmers didn't have to worry much about blight because their crops contained many different types of potatoes. The disease might infect some of the crops, but it couldn't jump easily between potato types, so any outbreaks were pretty well contained. But the monocultures on other continents meant that if potato blight got a foothold, it could quickly devastate the food supply. During the 1840s, lots of countries around the world were having blight problems, but none had it as bad as Ireland. At the time, there weren't any established techniques for combating the disease, and a series of unhelpful policies adopted by their neighbors in the UK only made things worse for the Irish, like taking ownership of most Irish farmland and exporting their goods, so Irish farmers struggled to grow food for their own families. During a time when the Irish people really only had enough land to farm potatoes, they suffered enormous losses to their crops from potato blight. This led to the infamous Irish Potato Famine. Around 1 million people starved to death, and another million or so left the country to escape. The famine had a devastating and lasting impact on the population and culture of Ireland. It wasn't until later that century that scientists finally found a solution to potato blight, a cocktail of lime and copper sulfate called the Bordeaux mixture, which killed the pathogen and stopped infections in their tracks. It was the world's first fungicide. Since then, pesticides for other potato pathogens have been developed, and together they've protected the crop for more than a century. It seemed like a happy ending for the potato. Today, more than 300 million tons of potatoes are produced each year, which go on to become pierogies, samosas, french fries, and so much more, providing food for billions of people. They've been farmed everywhere, from Antarctica to literally outer space. Potatoes are now one of the world's most important food crops, coming in only behind rice and wheat. But you saw the title of this video, so you know that's only the first chapter of the story. And before we get to the second chapter, it's time for an ad.
Thank you for watching this SciShow video, and thank you for supporting it whenever you buy our merch, which is on sale right now. We've got stuff up to 45% off at complexly.store. There's tons to peruse, like the Anubis candle, based on the SciShow video where we explained the science behind what ancient Egyptian mummies might have smelled like. Our version of this perfume is the perfect union of incense, smoke, amber, leather, and more. Plus, we've got posters, postcards, pins, and bucket hats, which don't start with a P, but are still pretty cool. For orders over $25, you get a free mystery pin, and for orders over $50, you'll get a free SciShow keychain at checkout. It's all at complexly.store/collections/sale, and the sale ends August 15th, so time and the pins are running out.
To this day, blight remains a huge pain in the potatoes. Several blight outbreaks have happened over the past few decades, and every year, many tons of potatoes are lost to infection. See, fungicides aren't perfect. Potato blight is impressively adaptable, and it's constantly developing resistance to our chemical treatment, rendering it less and less effective over time. And blight isn't the only potato pest out there. Farmers have to watch out for insects, like the infamous Colorado Potato Beetle. These colorful little critters can be found across North America, Europe, and Asia, where they're known to spend their entire life cycle chomping happily on potato leaves, stems, and tubers. It's a feast for the beetles and a death sentence for the plants. If they're not controlled, these bugs can wipe out entire fields of potatoes. Like potato blight, potato beetles are also really good at developing resistance to pesticides. And if that fails, they're migratory, so they can just fly off to greener potato pastures, so they're really hard to eliminate. On top of that, pesticide resistance isn't the only troubling change. The Earth's climate is changing too, leading to warmer global temperatures and more droughts, storms, and other extreme weather. Scientists estimate that pests like potato beetles are going to thrive under those warmer conditions and expand their home ranges into new areas. And increasing rainfall in some regions will create moist conditions that encourage the growth of infectious microbes like potato blight. So the changing climate will almost certainly help pests, but it may also hinder potato plants. When temperatures get too high, the most common potato plants grow slower, develop physical deformities, and end up with tissue damage. On the other hand, cold snaps can generate ice that damage potato leaves and stems, basically causing potato frostbite. And if conditions become too dry, potato plants get dehydrated, which disrupts their growth and can cause a type of tissue decay called blackheart. We're already seeing the effects of climate change on potatoes. Germany lost 30% of their potato crops after a 2018 summer drought. Using predictive climate models, researchers have estimated that without preventative action, global potato crops could decline by as much as 25% in the coming decades. In certain regions, models predict nearly 100% loss. So unless we do something, a future potato famine is not out of the question. Fortunately, we're doing something. Lots of somethings, actually. Farmers and food scientists around the world have been developing solutions. Some of these solutions come from the potatoes themselves. Despite all the dangers, potato plants aren't helpless. They're hardy organisms, capable of surviving various tough conditions. And some of them are better at it than others, which means the occasional extra tough potato plant can be cultivated into a whole new strain of super potatoes. Various breeding programs have produced potatoes that are extra good at dealing with droughts and heat waves, while others have developed potatoes that mature early, providing extra flexibility to planting schedules. For example, in India, Kufri Pukraj potatoes mature early and do well in droughts, while Kufri Sinduri potatoes are particularly resistant to high heat. Of course, there are limitations to all of this. Most potato breeds are one-trick taters. It's tough to cultivate plants with multiple special qualities. For example, your potatoes could be drought-resistant or heat-resistant, but they often can't be both, unless we give the potatoes a little boost with genetic editing. In a 2024 study, scientists deleted the gene that codes for a specific protein in potatoes, allowing them to become more resilient in the face of drought, and more resistant to their dreaded nemesis, potato blight. But pesticides and gene therapy aren't the only ways to keep potato blight away. Studies have shown that just covering a potato field with straw mulch can reduce the impacts of both potato blight and potato beetles. So farmers have a lot of tools in their belt, and that's before we even ask our microbe friends for help. I know I've talked a lot about microbes causing terrible disease, but not all microbes are anti-potato. Research has found that certain root bacteria can promote healthy plant growth, and when carefully applied to crops, they can help potatoes thrive, even in harsh conditions. The future is full of dangers for potatoes, but a combination of specialized farming techniques, targeted breeding, and genetic engineering might just keep them safe. The Great Potato Famine of the past was devastating because people weren't prepared for it, but we have all the tools and knowledge to prevent the next one. So let's hope scientists are successful in their quest to save the spuds, because I would really miss potato chips, and aloo gobi, and tater tots, and potato wedges, and potato salad, and crinkle cut fries. Should I keep going?